Hello, everybody, and welcome to Strength Hammer. If it's Thursday, it's Strength Hammer.
Even though I don't release this episode till Friday. uh, and that was my one and only guest, Neil. There's no one else.
hmm hmm
This
Yeah,
is
no other guess.
first and foremost, everybody. Happy New Year. We
Happy New Year.
yeah, we took a week off because we did a small little impromptu recording, and turns out I didn't record my own voice, so that podcast was wasted. But we were also playing Total Warhammer 3 and not really talking well.
Little disjointed. Little
It
disjointed.
it was, but I was having fun. It was enjoyable watching Matt Big M himself be more frustrated at Total War than I was, because at least I played it one more time
Half
than
of
him.
Matt's hobby is just being frustrated with things, which is
You'd think he'd be more popular on YouTube because of that, because it's like, yeah, you got to get the hate clicks, right?
right. Right.
Whatever. We love you, Matt. Sorry that you're not on the episode this time, but uh,
Nothing but love.
nothing but love. Except for if we play at each other at Adepta Won't, then I'm gonna take you down, son.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Why don't you tell the kids what Adepta One is about?
Well, I think my view is different from everybody else's view, so my view involves more anger at things. Everyone else's view is involved more of, I'd just rather be with my friends. So
Right.
why don't you present your view, and I'll keep my mouth shut for right now.
Well, my view of Adepta Won't is this is we did not we did Adepta Can't last year because we couldn't. Um, I actually still can't. However, Adepta Won't this year is a choosing not to, even if I had the ability to go. I'm pretty much the Adepta Can't we did last year was just hanging out with friends for a weekend and gaming,
Hmm.
and it was a blast. And so I want to do that again. And Adepticon is a good excuse to get together and play some games if you can't go. So that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, no, it's good timing during like all the events and such, and I think everybody's like work schedule. It's like, yeah, sure, let's continue to get together. I do enjoy that we just forced it, since Cole is now from Big M's Power Hours moving out to Ohio. We're just forced it to be an Ohio event where you guys
Yeah,
rotate and host us, PA people.
I love it. And now Cole might get an extra day out of this. Actually, you know,
Really?
I mean, I'm up for making this more than just a 2 dayer. So
Yeah, you know what?
Adepticon is more than a 2 dayer after all.
We should. Like, why not? Like, I'm game for that. I mean, you're hosting this year, so you tell us when, and do we know uh who all it's going to be? Because we only have what last year, was it just the five of us? We have, and then
I
we had
think so.
yeah, and then we had a John came out. So okay, so
Uh-huh.
we need that six, that rotating six. If it's John again, great. If it's someone else, great.
Yep. No, we'll get John out there.
That'd be good.
We'll make the attendee list here at some point.
That's right. Another invitational that none of you are going to be invited to. Hope everybody listening continues to listen and not just turn it off out of frustration.
I am very able to be bribed. So
Yes. I mean, there's some Barn Owl crew out here that I could bring up. If trying to think.
I do need to kind of start working on this whole battle across the realms thing again. And Chuck, I have a challenge for you.
Oh no. I mean, yeah, bring
My
it. Let's
challenge
go.
to you. My challenge to you, and I know you've been working on this and you've been meeting heavy resistance, is to get the Barn Owl Club into AOS enough so that they can attend bars.
So there has been some progress on that front, because
Ooh.
I mean, Neil, you know me. I
You're not gonna
decide
stop.
I decide something's gonna happen, and everyone's along for that ride
Right. Yeah.
on some level. Um, but Mark is who was our host for the location for the Terathi Classic. Um, he's the most likely. He's like, yeah, teach me how to play AOS. He has a corn army. It's very small, but we're looking at building. So and I have a feeling we'll get the others. We'll get them. Like so there's no issue. It's gonna happen. What's my time frame for bars again this year? Do we know yet?
Oh, I mean,
Roughly,
with
roughly. Give me
how
give me.
considering how I've done nothing for it so far, we probably got some time here. You could
Okay.
probably got 6 months.
Okay. Cool. Q3 at least. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good. I'm gonna keep pushing on that. I mean, I got my Fire Slayers army ready and waiting. Yeah. Let's do that. I just looked over. Neil, what's your hobby been? I guess over the holiday break, post Terathi until now.
Post Rathi. Well, I did just today. So I thought I was scheduled for work today. Turns out I wasn't, based on a mistake of my own scheduling.
Fun.
So I got a free day off work, even though I'm still kind of recovering from a tooth thing. I was going to go into work today. So since I had extra time, I built two more, what do they call it? Dracothian Guard for for a friend of mine,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Matt Farrell. So I have to paint those for him, and I've been dragging my feet on that. And I decided prior to Christmas that one of the first things I was going to do is get all that stuff finished up for him. The next time I see him, just be able to hand them to him.
There you
So
go.
those were painted in prime today. I also my son got the Hulk for Christmas from Marvel Crisis
Nice.
Protocol, so I painted that up, and he helped me paint our a little measuring tool for Crisis Protocol if you've played it before. So then I finished that for him as well.
And Christmas gifts that you've received, they count towards hobby as well. So anything particular on that
Well,
front?
I have actually, now that I mention it, outside of painting and everything, I did get a 3D printer. I have printed
Watch out
a
now.
few single characters now. They're coming out really nice. So I'm ready to move on to bigger and better things now. So I printed a few Hero Forge characters. Um, I got some STL files for some random buildings to use in Crisis Protocol. So we'll be trying that out. All sorts of fun stuff.
Nice. Actually, thinking speaking of 3D printers, I eh, I mean we'll talk about this briefly, but like I might be getting, you know what? No, I'll save. I'll save it. We'll talk about it on things we hope to do in the next year, because that's kind of part of it. Let's see. My hobby. So for Christmas, I got the Cadia Stance box set for 40K because I wanted to do a little crusade army for Catachance since my recent foray into the US Open Grand Finale, Grand Narrative, saw me role playing and cosplaying as a Catachance, so I kind of fell in love as I was studying up on them. So I got a I'm one tank shy. I either need to get like a Chimera, which is a troop transport, or a Leman Russ, which is just kind of like the generic, you see it everywhere, guard tank for my army. But I can't wait for that to arrive just yet, so I decided to put everything together, prime it, and then today I got the flesh tones all on there and washed. So kind of so some hobby progress on some Catachans, which is
Nice. Nice.
very exciting.
Seeing the
Yeah,
progress. That's good.
yeah, no, it was fun because like I haven't really played with like I just do the same flesh tone like like I do what I know and what I like and what is easy. But I was like I'm gonna play with the flesh tones because it's a small army. So it was fun like adding different shades and here and there. I might actually go and put a few tattoos in, possibly. I'm not the best at the freehand on that, but we'll see if the urge strikes to kind of touch them up. Especially because I got a Fire Slayer army, as I mentioned, staring at me
Mhm.
that I also got for Christmas as half from friends, half from the Ho Ho Poppy Vices gift exchange. Uh, Although I'm waiting for a few things I have to order for that. One is the invocations, which are in my cart, but that magnetic forge hasn't been in stock for months, apparently.
The pizza
And
oven.
pizza oven, and yeah, we'll see. I know you said you might have a spare. It's just
Mhm.
useless terrain for you. I mean, it's useless terrain for me too as a fire slayer. Let's be honest, but I want it.
Gotta have it.
Yeah, you gotta have it.
0 points. You might as well have it.
Yeah, exactly. And I might convert it to be like a little bit more Anvil of Doom ish. like because like
Ooh.
well this is also part of my hobby because I did a lot of research diving back into novels, the end times books, and other various resources online to kind of find. Uh, my goal essentially was like for this year to find a nugget from the end times, some piece of gold that was left that I could carry into any army for Age of Sigmar. And I originally thought it's like, oh, I'm probably gonna do elves, and this all talked because it's at the U.S. Open. I was talking to Eddie Eccles, and then I was talking to Martin Orlando like on separate calls, and like they both have great ideas for something that's kind of like one's a wild, cool idea that's its own making in Martin's thing, and Eddie, I don't want to spoil it, but it was the idea blew me away. I'm just like, I hope you do that. Like it's gonna take all year, but I hope you do that. So it
Mhm.
kind of inspired me to do this, and like yeah, it took about 5 hours of research, and that's like the first level of research. Like I have more to do, but I think I found my story. I'm keeping it under wraps. Like I'll tell you off the call, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep it kind of under wraps until I get started on it. But I'm so jazzed to get started on that project.
Mhm.
But it's not a shame because like I'm also enjoying this Catachan project. But I'm like I don't want to start this project because I know it's just gonna take over my life for like a month. Like the boxes are staying sealed until everything else is off the board. But yeah, that was a fun afternoon hobby. That was what was it? That was the yeah, that was Sunday, January 1st. So that rung in the new year by diving into Warhammer lore for hours upon hours.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a good day. It was very well spent. Um, Especially because I was feasting and drinking like a dwarf that day still too. So hmm. And before we get any farther, fitness check-in. I'm continuing my program that me and Alex wrote together. We have another 3 weeks. Maybe it's 2 weeks after this. I can't. No, 3 weeks. This is the fifth week. We're doing 8 weeks. It's going good. The weights are getting heavier as the program progresses, obviously. So actually, even before this, I know like we were trying to find the time to see if we were going to record tonight or whatnot. I took a nice hour nap. Like I'm back into that stage of I'm lifting enough and often enough that in the evenings after a meal, I want to take like a 20-minute nap at watching TV. I haven't done that probably since I was in CrossFit, which was also,
Mhm.
but that's 5 days a week. This program's 5 days a week. I wanted that volume back, and it feels good though. It's healing for my mind. But
Mhm.
feeling strong as hell though. I can tell you that. I love it.
Nice.
What about your fitness check-in? And like I said, I should also mention, I ate and drank like a king for the entire holidays. Like I wasn't being like a complete a-hole to my body, but like I was like, you know what? I want a cookie. Gonna have a cookie. Like I was still eating healthy meals, but like in between it, the snacking and the drinks, I was letting myself enjoy it because that's what you're supposed to do in my mind.
Yeah.
So, uh,
Mhm.
wasn't all clean, but yeah. How's your fitness been? How's your feasting and drinking been through the merriment of the holiday?
Well, I certainly feasted and I certainly drank, and following that, I did look down at the state of my gut, and I decided that I'm at a point right now where I've let this go for too long. so so the
And
plan is to get back on this horse actually, and I'm
yep,
going to use this podcast to keep me accountable for that.
it's
However,
good.
those plans were derailed recently by an abscess tooth
Yeah, it's
and a whole lot of pain, and we're not out of the woods yet on that. So I got the second half of my root canal coming up on Wednesday, and then
which
hopefully everything will be back into working order at that point. Um, Kind of having problems eating right now as well with
yeah.
this. Can't really take any kind of touching of my teeth on the left side of my face at the moment. So
Yeah, and you need
it's
that
not a
fluid
good
to pump.
time to get into the working out just yet.
Yeah,
Plus, we've had
that's
some
fair.
other sicknesses rolling through the house as well. But that is definitely the plan. So we're going to use this weekly podcast to keep me on track because ready to slim down this gut because there's no reason for me to keep going the direction I'm going, especially after this most recent scare.
Yeah, no, and I get that too because if you want to have the energy to go get in shape, you're gonna need to be able to eat, and if you can't eat, that could be rough. So,
Yeah,
I mean, hey, going for walks though, that's a good place to start this week. That's something you can do, and if
sure.
if there's some sickness going around the house, getting out in some fresh air is never a bad thing to move a little bit. I'm sure. I think we have to shovel some snow here this weekend. I know I
Is that
do.
right?
I think I do.
Uh-oh.
You might as well.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But no, and also everybody, if the podcast is late next week or is missed next week, it's because Neil's root canal was very rough and he needed to rest. So we'll try. And if he can't do it, I'll try and do it myself, or I'll get someone else to join me. But just as a, I guess, future heads up, if I'm lazy.
Yeah, I should be good to go by Thursday, I'm sure.
Yeah, like I said, in worst case, push it back a day. It's not terrible. Oh, actually, there is one more piece of hobby. Sorry. Uh, yeah, when we talked about Tyrathic Classic, we talked about the Game of Fours and my upcoming Tomb King's army, right?
I think we did in the last podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, so lovely game of chance. Um, uh, and let's just say I'm getting a free 2,400 point Tomb King's army, and he's been painting it up. This gentleman who made this gamble, and he is loving it. He let me pick the color scheme. I gave him a couple of options. I said, "Hey, red or gray, or blue and yellow," and he went blue and yellow, and it's looking phenomenal. And he actually, because of the deal, obviously buying in bulk, good deals. A lot of people are selling stuff separately, but he went and made some deals with some people on eBay, and he's also, after he's done with my Tomb King's army, he's starting his own Tomb King's army.
Nice.
So there's gonna be a civil war. I got Queen Chaldea, and he's gonna be running Setras.
Kalita, I think.
Yeah, Kalita. Yeah. So obviously I'm gonna take the badass chick, and he went with Setra because Setra doesn't kneel, and there's a chariot, and it fits him perfect. It's like
Sure.
boom. This is great. It's
Yeah.
so. But they did try to at the recent club day. He rolled a dice. He says you have to play the Tomb King's army at the next Tyrathi Invitational. And this was his way of trying to force it to be fantasy again. Like, it was very clever. Because, whether he got a 3 or a 4, he would have to play Tomb Kings. Or I would have to play Tomb Kings, which means I would have to make the event fantasy. Thankfully, he rolled a 5, so the option's still open. It could be 40k, it could be fantasy, it could be Age of Sigmar. We'll see.
Nice.
But yes, so let's today's topic is, everyone might, if you saw the thumbnail or took a guess, because I'm wishing you Happy New Year. It's all about, a little bit of recap of last year, and chat about what we want in this year, 2023. And I have to say real quick, this is the first year that I've adapted to that new number so quickly on all my checks. It's like, usually I'm like crossing out my name, or crossing out the year on the checks, because I still write checks. And this time, no problem. I went to 23 so naturally. It's like, I hope that means good things. Good things. Knock on some wood here. But let's talk about our prior year, 2022. It's dead and gone. It's buried. Wasn't the worst year in the world. Wasn't the best year in the world. But Neil, why don't you give a recap? What armies you painted? Maybe what events you attended? And general things like that. And it doesn't have to be anything in depth, or it goes in depth as you like.
So 2022 was the year of my hobby branching out. So I was started in probably in January, thinking about a 40k army. That might actually
Been
might have
forced
got
upon you? Might have been forced
yeah,
upon
it
you.
was forced upon me. It was given to me by some of the models, by some of the one of the fabulous persons who runs this podcast, and then as well as old Big M as well, and Cole. Cole, I
Mhm.
believe, chipped into that as well. So we
Absolutely.
started out a Tau army for 40k, which I've really enjoyed playing. I don't play it competitively. I play it to shoot things and watch a big big robot stomp across the battlefield, because that's what makes me happy.
Yep.
So and it's hit all those buttons for me. So that's been great. We did so we went from there. I did Brewhammer, in, was it late January, February?
Yeah, I think it's always been February last year too, and
Middle of
this year.
February. Drove through an ice storm to get there. We lost Dave to that ice storm, but he just didn't come because
I remember hassling him that day. Like, what do you
we
mean
were
you're not going?
wrestling it. Um, yeah, so but Brewhammer was amazing. And so moved on from there. We did Adepticant, which we just recently touched on.
Yep.
And into the summer months, well, spring-ish, start of summer, we did bars. So we did Battle Across the Realms. And then into the summer, I hit my hobby law. That's where, excuse me, a little bit of burnout, a little bit of just life getting crazy on me. Lots of stuff with the family and everything. Lots of changes with work and all that. And so I was busy, busy, busy. And my wife, she started her own practice as well. So it's been a lot busier around here than what it normally has been. And so hobby was hard for quite some time.
Yep.
And over that time, I started to kind of switch to just kind of games with friends and not doing as much community building as what I used to do anyway. And so that trend has continued here so far on to 2023. So end of the year, we did, I think, my next event because backed out of LVO, backed out of, is there another one? Might have backed out of? I don't know.
No, I don't think
Nova.
we
Didn't go to Nova.
I said we weren't
And
planning on
so,
Nova. I don't think, were we?
no, I don't think we were, but
I was
I
50-50,
knew,
but they wouldn't let
yeah,
me
I
come
knew I
in,
wasn't
so
going this year. And so, yeah, my next event was the Tegrathi Classic, and that closed out my year.
well, there you go. It's a pretty good year. What about the what armies did you start last year too? I guess you said
Um,
Tau, but I think you had another one.
I did leave out that I started high elf farming.
There you go.
Again, this was another my hobby muse, Chuck Moore
Yeah.
at what was it, the last Terathi Classic? That's where I think you gave me the first models.
No, no, that was actually just a random club day you
That
came
was
out
a
to.
random games day. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it was because I was so knee deep into like loving the old world again, and you were kind of catching that secondhand high.
Hmm.
And then when you're coming out, it's like, oh, I'll do a team game. We'll get you back into it. It'll be fun. And you're like, yeah, sure, that's good. And you didn't know that
Yeah,
I
I was
gave
to
you,
be
yeah.
honest, I was still a little bit on the skeptical side. You gave me those models, and I was like, thank you very much. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. This is fun, but and I started thinking about it, right?
You started remembering the all like not necessarily the games, but remembering the fun of living in that time. I think.
Right, right, right. And that game that you had with your friend there on that games day, that
Yep.
started to kind of just really kind of. Yeah, I think I said to you at one point, it made me realize I wanted something that I didn't think I wanted anymore.
Right.
So something that way. And it was an itch I didn't know I had to scratch. And as soon as that itch was brought to my attention again, it started getting more and more annoying until I had to finally do something about it. And so yeah, so we wound up getting a bunch of models 3D printed, so I could get back in this game. And
Yep.
we painted up the 2,000 points worth of the army and got it to the Tebrathi Classic and went. Well, as we discussed in the last episode, 3-1.
Very well. Very well. Yeah, that's no, that's fantastic. And honestly, I'm so happy you're back into fantasy. It's been great. Let's see, my 2022. I'll run through the events first. Obviously, I did the GW US Open events again this year, with the first in Seattle, then San Diego. I missed Chicago, which was the first US Open I ever missed. But Cole was getting married that day, so real life always trumps work/fun for this sort of stuff. So missed that, but it seemed to go okay. Like obviously I'm not vital for it. There's a great team around everything. So, but like it was one of those like it was hard to miss that first one, like rip that bandit. And now it's like I've missed one, and if I can't go to another one, it's like oh that sucks, but they'll be fine, all that sort of stuff. Unless it's like a really massive one, and I'd be like oh I need to figure out how to get there. I don't want to leave them hanging, but you got to rip off that band-aid to miss one, because like the build up to it was more stressful than anything I've ever been. I wasn't even going to it.
Yeah.
But then yeah, Kansas City, and then the finale out in Albuquerque, which was wonderful. Did a whole show about that one, so that was wonderful throughout the year. Obviously, Adepticant because I couldn't go because I don't want to rant and rave, so I'll just move on. um, but then let's see, there was also a Steel City GT was another big one that I went to middle of summer as an Age of Sigmar tournament. That was a fun time. It was also the realization that I didn't play as many tournaments as I was hoping to last year because I was so busy with the U.S. Opens and running other stuff that it's like I think I went to my first game and I was playing Bill Souza and I was like, Bill, I need you to be very patient with me because I don't think I played this game for like 3-4 months. And I'm just but I was around it so much because of hobbying and
Mhm.
watching people play. It's like I knew what to do, but like now that I was the pilot, I was like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and especially as fast as Bill can play if he's really wanting to go.
but we were well underneath the time limit. Like I had a fun list. He went to win the event. I went for fun. So like we rocked up, and I'm like, I'm gonna give you the best game I possibly can. But you have 3 magma drops who are bounty hunters. I have a bunch of Sisters of Slaughter who are Galatian veterans. It was an
Yeah.
uphill battle from the start. Just from
Hmm.
the list design, but like it's like walk through it. Obviously, always had a great time. So like, yeah, I think I talked about that in a prior podcast. So that's all good. Let's see. There was the Claymore doubles actually. This was earlier on. This was January, I think. Martin Orlando ran a doubles event out by him, and it was wonderful. I went out with
Yeah, that seems like forever ago. Yeah.
it does. I'm looking because I actually brought up. I keep a folder of the events I travel to keep lists, travel documents, just an organization that I do. Yeah, I completely forgot about it, but yeah, that was a wonderful event. It was just gonna be me and Matt originally, and then there was a space open, so Cole and Brad jumped in the car, came with us, which is like, yeah, sure. So I think we drove out uh, Friday night. It was only a 1 day teams event, but like Martin's a good friend, and we went out Friday. We had dinner with him and his family. The event was wonderful. I think the highlight was watching Brad and Alex. Yes, I said Brad and Cole. Yeah, Brad and Alex. Brad and Alex joined me and Matt. In case I said that incorrectly before, but um,
Hmm.
watching those two realize that their city's army teamed up with trolls was actually a really good combo, and watching them just like crush people, which is the exact opposite. 'Cause me and Matt went out because I had just finished my uh, carriage on Overlords, so he brought his Fire Slayer so we could be dwarf on dwarf, even though we knew where that was going to go, which is pretty much where it went, 0 and 3.
Hmm.
um, but no, still that was a great event. And then we did the long drive back across the state, which is about 6.5 hours, but still it's all turnpike. It's easy. Um, so it was a fun. It was like a fun, like almost like an old college road trip type feel.
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed that. Like the company was great. The event was great. I hope Martin does it again. I didn't hear that if he was doing one again this year, but he also had some life changes, different jobs, moved apartments. So like might be a year off for that. But that's a fun one to go to. And if even if it's a 1 day, it's kind of fun to do with that drive for us. Let's see. There was also a couple events. I was gonna go to LVO. Fortunately, I couldn't. I can't remember if it was because I was so close to a U.S. Open or was my main job had me going somewhere. Like one of those got in the way. There's also the Warpstone Wars GT, which was I think also in Pittsburgh, which was another 2 day GT, and that was another like one either the U.S. Open or my real job got in the way. So it's there were so many this past year, so it's like that was bound to happen. Um, did uh, a 1 day fantasy event well before the Terathi event at Fabricators Forge in Pittsburgh, and then I held a little mini because the Barn Owls crew, none of them had been to a tournament, so I did a 1 night. I called it the Whippy Stick RTT. It was 500 point fantasy tournament. I think it was just impromptu. I just showed up and said, "This is what we're doing tonight. Everyone bring 500 points fantasy." Or if they didn't have it, like I brought it for him. I had like one of the extra red whippy sticks measuring tools. It's painted
Hmm.
it gold, wrote whippy stick RTT on it, and just yeah, it was it was just a fun night. So like I guess I can count that as a an event technically.
Absolutely.
It's on BCP. And then and then yeah, obviously the Tarathi Classic to round out the year. So like maybe it wasn't an exact year. Like I had a much busier year planned, but no, it was Still a good year. I can't complain. Hobby. So yeah, I commissioned the Yanari army, and by commission I mean my friend Bobby painted it for me because he's an exceptional painter. I think I probably bought him some stuff as compensation, but beautiful Yanari army. I painted Drukari. I painted I think Cities of Sigmar. I also painted Caradron Overlords. I think Auric War Clans, like a Path to Glory started. That might have been done before. I can't recall.
Mm.
Entire Stormcast army for the Ringer army for U.S. Open. Uh, Lots more High Elves, Dark Elves, and Wood Elves. So many trees that the Amazon would be jealous. Yeah, it's. I mean, I've had a full year of hobby. It's weird with like in hindsight, I'm like, man, I didn't do as much hobby as I thought. It's like, nay, but I painted 1,058 models. So it's like, no, I did. It was a different type. It wasn't an event type year where I was playing. It was more of an organizational type year, which is fine. Like I feel like I didn't even do many club days. Like thank God the other leaders in the club were running days because I was like there was like I think a 2 3 month span where I didn't do a single club day and I was like ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh but yeah, but this year my goal is to paint less models and play more games.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
yeah,
That's kind of where my headspace is at right now too. It's just like I spent many years now on community building and everything, and we'll see how bars goes this year and everything. But that's like with the time that I have right now. If I focus all my time on community building, that means I'm not playing any games. And the reason why I started into the community building in the first place was to find people to play games with. And so
right.
now I feel like I've done that duty, and now I want to play some games.
No, I feel you. Like it's you can't ever hang up that organizational. Like I love this. I love the Warhammer community. Like I mean, I love the Warhammer community across the world. But like obviously my local one too. But it's like the more time I spend away from the local, it's like I should spend more time at the local, make sure that scene's still growing. Because like there's always new kids coming in. Um, you don't want to neglect. So it's and due to some stuff from last year too, like with some of the events, I was like, okay, I have become a little bit more local focused because and it's hard to deny like within between Pittsburgh, Ohio, Akron area, and then my local area. It's like I am not want for great people to be around. Like I'm spoiled for choice for people to play games with that I'm willing to drive to very easily. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even there's even a few in Columbus that if they said, hey, you want to come out and play games for a day, I would probably do that 3.5 hour drive out there too, just to play games with them for a day and then crash, wake up, come home the next day. So,
For
um,
sure.
which is fun to see. But like also we gotta remember that wouldn't exist if you and I weren't there out there building early on, and they weren't doing it, and then the connections happened,
Mm-hmm.
and here we are. So
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and the thing about the community building as well is, even though I very rarely get to play in the types of events I create, if you don't create the types of events you like, then those types of events don't exist. So you can always pass the torch, but it's never going to be exactly the way you want it to be, right?
right, and
So
and for the
that's the torture, right?
yeah, and for like your local and regional events, that's what you want to do, build the events you want to play in. Now, I'll caveat that because whenever I was doing Nova and these US Opens, I don't do that because I think once you reach that level, my philosophy became run the event they want to play in. I want this to be the biggest Warhammer event possible. I want to attract the most people that are willing to come to it. So, uh, because like it's weird because I go back and forth between it. Like I used to be like, no, run the event they want to play, run the event they want to play. But then I look at Tirathi Classic, like, no, that's the event I want to play in because I'm playing in it. But it's also because it's local. That's where that shines. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we tried to do a bars, like if Mike Brandt came and said, Chuck, I want you to hire on your favorite person to do whatever event you feel like, and we decided to do bars. I'm sure we'd get people to show up, but I don't know if it'd be as popular as if
Oh no,
yeah, you
no,
know what I mean. Like so, it's there's
yeah,
levels. Yeah.
yeah. You get so much blowback on something like that.
Oh, maybe I don't know. There's blowback.
For sure,
No matter what you do, someone's gonna be unhappy. But at the end
sure.
of the day, they're not upset with you. They're just venting their frustration over something, and it's understandable. So,
Hmm.
regardless, so yeah, we it sounds like we both have some great years behind us. We have a great year ahead of us. I have a mountain of terrain to paint, once again from Games Workshop. It's not trees though, so it shouldn't be as bad. Although I'm kind of worried about like the 40, uh, what's it, the aqua? It's the Season of War Thondia box, that floating water thing.
Uh,
That one's kind of. I think that one might scare me, but that one's still ways off before I have to
yeah,
start building it.
yeah,
That might break me. If the trees didn't break me, that one might, but we'll see. But
yeah.
yeah, 2023. We got a fresh year. I mean, there's always. I just listened to Warhammer Weekly today. They did a New Year, New Army. It was a great little discussion to have on to listen to, um, especially if you're a new hobbyist or a newer hobbyist. Like, it's a great one. If you're more experienced, like myself and you, Neil,
Mhm.
it's fun to listen in and rethink on those things and kind of think of like what our input is. But like I know what my New Year, New Armies type stuff. What like I don't do New Year one New Army. I do New Year. How many models and war bands can I paint? Because I'm addicted to this hobby.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so fresh year, Neil. Don't worry about like committing to any events except for the Teyrathi Classic,
Yeah.
2023. Um,
Hmm.
but what's your and I'm not gonna say resolutions because I don't like resolutions. Just goals. They're
Hmm.
looser, they're form fitting, they can adapt, you can move them. But like, what's some of your hobby or Warhammer goals going into this year?
Well, I'm headed back to Brewhammer again,
Yeah, buddy.
with yourself and some other fine gentlemen.
Hmm.
So like that is actually, boy, what is it now? Less than a month away
Yeah,
at this point. So it's coming. So super, super excited for that. We got Adepta Cant that I'm hosting. So it's definitely a goal to set up and figure out how we want to do that. Um, Outside of that, I'd like to get bars back together. I'm really excited about some of the ideas we have for it. It's just going to be making those ideas all come together.
right.
So, really going to have to figure out how to delegate to make this happen. Otherwise, it's not going to. Um, but outside of that, the goal is just to play games and get to the shop more often, as often as I can, considering family obligations and fun to be had. So, um, yeah, last year was last 6 7 months was pretty sparse as
Yeah,
far as getting to the shop and getting games in, and so I'd like to do a lot more than that. I'm pretty actually excited about this new General's Handbook coming up. So
yeah.
some of my AOS poo poo that I was doing over the last 6 months or so, I feel like that's probably going to turn around with some of these
I
some of the new ways to play here.
I'm with you on that.
So
Just the Galatian Veterans Bounty Hunter thing being mixed up is enough for me because I can run the type of army I want to run again without as much fear.
yeah, 100%, 100%. So I feel like I can go to a tournament and be my version of competitive, 2 and 3,
Yep,
you know,
yep,
but still feeling like I might have a chance to win a game or whatever. I'm gonna get my one win for the weekend,
right.
which is by the way the goal for Brewhammer, get that one win.
There you go.
So um, yeah, so I think that's going to cover it. Really, I don't see myself hitting up any big events again this year. Not with all the life stuff going on. I don't think that's in the cards for me. So just getting around locally and playing with friends.
No, that's entirely fair. I know for me, yeah, I did put into potentially work as part of the U.S. Open, not U.S. Open, but I guess it's North America team at LVO this year. But sometimes you get called up whenever you volunteer for that stuff. Sometimes you don't. For like these extra ones, so like name wasn't called up, no worries. Looking forward to watching the streams on that for sure.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, I'll attend every U.S. Open, barring any sort of like life thing happening. I love
I
the
will say
U.S.
this
Oh yeah,
about the U.S. Opens: if there was one that you knew was going to be like just an exceptional location, you know, come to this location, it's just going to be a sweet setup or something like that. I could be tempted.
hmm
I would listen.
well,
So
it I don't know everything in full detail. Obviously, like that's being worked on. That'll be announced when it's announced. But with how successful the grand finale, grand narrative was in like such a really high end resort type location, I would say if you want a location and you're not willing and you're willing to spend the money, wherever the grand finale is, if it's similar to what we did last year, which I'm feeling it'd probably be very similar, um,
Mhm.
that would be one to attend. It like it would just be stunning. Like because like it's a grand finale. Like you're
Yeah.
going to pull out all the stops, and boy
Oh
did
yeah.
we. So
Oh yeah.
um,
If I could play in a narrative event that would affect the narrative and stuff like that for AOS, yeah, it's gonna be that's gonna be tough to keep me away from that.
oh, for sure. I hope we get the chance to try and make that come to life because it was so much fun for 40K. But like, so that remains to be
Mhm.
seen. It'll be announced when it gets announced. Um, as I said, I look forward to attending all the U.S. Opens, barring any sort of life things or, I mean, like I said, it's hard to predict that sort of stuff because like I'm technically an on-call employee, so like if it's not many people sign up or budgeting things happen and like like who knows? Who knows? Like I
Mhm.
said, I don't see any of that. I foresee none of that. But like
Yeah.
you always have to have that caveat of life has a way of just being a pain in the ass sometimes.
Oh sure. Yeah.
um, I do. I'm hoping because I put in also that I volunteered to go to Warhammer Fest in the UK because I would like to go to UK and see Warhammer Fest, and if I could get paid to go do that, I would. So maybe knock on wood here. I don't know.
Mhm.
And if not, if that doesn't work out, like I said, and like here's the thing too, if you volunteer, sometimes your name gets called, sometimes it doesn't. If I don't get to go, I'm not gonna be upset. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It'd been cool to
Oh
go,
man.
but
I gotta tell you, Warhammer Fest, that's probably a
it's
hobby goal of mine at some point as well.
I
And
I
with the dollar and the pound being so close right now, that's
I
gonna
definitely
be tough.
I've put Warhammer Fest on my bucket list. I want to get to one. Um, and from I can only imagine it's going to be a stellar success. From what I've heard and seen, it's it's I mean it's not they can't sell it out like they can just keep printing more tickets, but like it's going to be big. It's going to be great. Like I said, I hope I'm lucky enough and they need me enough to justify my cost going over there to do it. So, if
Mhm.
not, it'll be one that I look to plan to go to myself uh, the next year if possible. So, um, other than that, like I'm sure Pittsburgh will have some more GTs this year. I'll probably try and get to at least one of them, if not more than one, depending on what they have. I am going to Brewhammer, as you mentioned. I was excited because I missed it last year. Um, I just didn't get a ticket. It was just sold out too quick for me, and then I don't think I even bothered to go on the wait list because I think yeah I did a work trip. I had a my main job had a work trip the weekend right after, so it was like
Mhm.
I just didn't go on a wait list because I figured like let someone else get it so I'm not like stressed and traveling 2 weekends in a row. That's all. That can
Yeah.
be hard. I've done that, but it's
Yeah.
not always fun.
A lot on
But
the family too.
yeah, I am excited though to get to Brewhammer this year. It's gonna be fun because it's what me, you, Matt, and Cole are
Yeah.
in.
I think you guys are gonna have a blast. I mean, if it's anything like it was last year, you know the caliber of the guys who are running it too. So
Oh man, it's
yeah.
yeah, they're wonderful, wonderful humans. And
Mhm.
I will say this: if you're listening and you're going to Brewhammer and you have the chance to play me, I have a lovely surprise for you. Every one of my opponents is getting something wonderful this year.
It's awesome.
That's all I'll say about that. But outside of that, obviously there'll be another Teyrathi. It will be a Warhammer setting that I can have Teyrathi in. Uh, I've heard there's more and more talks popping up out of nowhere right now for Old World, and I know nothing about it. I'm in the blank as everybody else, but I'm excited to see what it is. Um,
Yeah.
I've heard rumors like it's coming out this year, and I was like, I doubt it because it's very obviously going to be a new 40K edition this year. So I've heard
Yeah.
next year, but I'm like, that's a Sigmar edition, so we'll see. Who
Well, you know,
knows?
it is the 40-year,
Yeah,
you know, what an anniversary of Warhammer, right? Which, got its start with fantasy. So I think that's why a lot of the buzz is out there. We'll see. I'd love it. I
even if
mean,
they
I'd be
just
in.
showed us a lot more, like what I've seen, it's stellar. Like us playing this
Right.
fantasy stuff now has us set up for success with it already to go right into it right away with armies we love. There'll definitely be more of that happening soon. Oh, hobby from last year, Dark Angels 30K army. I forgot I did that too.
Not to
Yeah,
mention your Horus Heresy.
yeah. Not to mention Horse Heresy or Wartime or whatever. I did too much. Uh,
Yeah.
um, I did take my Horse Heresy and get second place at my category for Armies on Parade this year though. So it's an award-winning army, even though I've never played a game with it because no one around here
Very
plays Horse
nice. Very
Heresy.
nice.
Sorry, back on track. 2023, looking ahead. Uh, like I said, there'll be some local one-day events at the Fabricators Forge, which is like kind of our Pittsburgh big store. Obviously, club days. I want to lead more club days. It's funny, the byproduct of all the fantasy stuff I'm pushing is some of the younger kids who never played fantasy have picked up fantasy stuff because they saw how excited we are to play it,
Hmm.
and they're just like, "Can you teach us how to play?" It's like, absolutely. Uh, so fantasy's not dying after that for us. So, but yeah, I'd like to get to a couple more 2-day events. Whether it's for, I mean, preferably not 40K. Competitive 40K is not my jam, but like 40K fantasy or Sigmar, I'd like to just do more 2-day events where I'm playing,
Hmm.
to offset this past year where it's like I didn't get to play as much as I nearly wanted. And like you said, new General's Handbook, I'm super excited about it. I've done some test games with what's been put out there, and it's just like, like loosely, and it's just like, okay, it's fun to be able to play my Daughters of Cain without having to be Marathian the Bow Snakes again. Because I don't like playing that army. I like playing Marathi and more witch elves than you can count.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's good goals. The hobby though, were you planning on doing any sort of like new year, new army type thing? Or you're adding to like a army continuously? I mean, you have a 3D printer now. You can kind of go wherever you want as long as it's not an official GW event.
Right. So what I plan to do is kind of keep working on that fantasy army because I've still got plenty of models to finish there.
Hmm.
Right now, my kiddo is really into Crisis Protocol, so we'll be doing some more models and doing some 3D printing for that kind of thing.
Nice.
The other thing I'm going to be doing is actually more than just my armies. What I plan on doing is helping other people try and get their fantasy armies going. So I know
Nice.
Cole, our new guy into fantasy here. I'd love to help him with some 3D prints and stuff and getting Empire Army going. So all that kind of stuff. But nothing too terribly new. Like I think I talked in the last podcast, I do have quite a few Sigmar armies. So there is, what I've realized is I don't really need that many because there are only so many that I like and enjoy playing. I have my display Karajan army that can't win, but I think is cool, and I get to make my flubber noises and,
Yep.
and shoot the cannons.
Yep.
So that's, there's a time and a place for that.
Well, I
And
actually stop you right there. Are you going to try and get that store anniversary model where you're the admiral with the tiny little boat so you can make tiny flubber noises?
I may have to do it actually. That's the first store anniversary one that I've looked at. I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
actually even have an admiral, so might have to do that.
I'm gonna
So
definitely try and get it, and if I can, I'll pick up two. So,
yeah, if you do, you let me know.
yep,
So,
don't worries.
um, so yeah, I've got my the two armies I probably play the most in AOS are Corn and Nurgle competitively. I did have a good run with my Soulblight Gravelords for a long time,
Yep. Oh yeah, I
and
hated that. Absolutely hated that army. You crushed me every time.
yeah, I don't know how because it did not do well at Brewhammer. Got me a good 2 and 3, but um, but yeah, so and then just moving that many models over 5 games with my gut is not good for my back at this point. So I don't need the pain in the ass of piling in 60 zombies anymore. But yeah. So I've got my kid's got a Seraphon army. My daughter's got a Ideneth Deepkin army.
Your wife
Things
has a
I don't even
Sylvaneth
have.
army.
Yeah, wife has a Sylvaneth army. They're all floating around. I could play them if I wanted to, but
That's fair.
nah. Um, so I'll stick to the ones I know. So, but Maybe a new Stormcast army. Who knows? Maybe
Or
that might.
or you mean, hey, you might decide, you know what? I'm gonna try a different fantasy army too. Like Chuck's doing the Tarathi Classic as fantasy again. Let's go on board. Let's do something for fun. You never know.
Yeah, who knows? I might. I mean, that would be. And you know what? I might wait to do something like that for the old world.
Yeah,
That might be something I would wait to make sure that I could, because you know how I get, right? If I'm
yep.
going to put my toe in, I'm going to actually jump the whole body in, right?
Oh
So
yeah, oh yeah.
so that's that would kind of kick off something like that. Like I might have to do something a little bit different there. So
Oh, for
who
sure.
knows? Maybe a Kislev army. Who knows?
Yeah, I kind of want to do that army when that game comes out. If those models continue to be
Yeah.
all that goodness, well,
Yeah, that would be
yeah.
highly dependent on many, many variables I am not aware of, right? So, what are the models? Is it Forge World? Is it not Forge World? If it is Forge World, you can forget that. Not happening.
I yeah.
So,
I don't I think it'll be like a mix, but who knows?
yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like with these diving into like the old end times books and novels to find that nugget that I found for this dwarf army. There's so many like open nuggets for elves that I kind of want to do another fantasy elf army, even though I have all three. It's just like, come on.
Mhm.
I'm trying to be good personally for my hobby this year. So the goal is to paint less models. Obviously, I'm going to be doing stuff for Games Workshop that does count towards my total, but that's terrain and it doesn't sit in my house.
Yeah.
I with the Fire Slayers army I'm starting right now. I have every Order army but Seraphon then
Ooh.
for Sigmar. I only have two Chaos armies, Hedonites and Khorne. I have an Orc Warclans Path to Glory, and I have zero Death faction. So the only other Sigmar army that I had interest to start actually after this Fire Slayer one was possibly Soulblight, but like a Monster Mash one with
Uh,
that I can't remember her name, but like I just liked her story. The Manticore Bat Centaur lady. Um,
yeah, yeah. I'm not pulling it out of the back of my head right now either, but I
yeah,
know you're coming.
it's that's still in my head even after like
Starts with an L.
yeah, even after months of like not thinking about that army, like that thought still pops back up. So that
Mhm.
might be another army I start this year. But obviously I have my Catachan Crusade Force, which is I think it's about 500 points by all said and done. About I'm doing power level with it. It's 25 power level. It's not going to grow past that too often unless people start playing Crusade with me. It'll be like my works. It'll sit comfortably around 1,000 points and probably like it'll just kind of be there for a small type game for fun. Um,
Mhm.
I'll do Fire Slayers. I'm still hoping to do Napoleonics this year, but I still only have two models for it. So
Oh.
we'll. I mean, those models lately have been very hard to get from what Norm at my local game shop uh, has been telling me. So it's like just distribution channels are a little bit in disarray, and the non very popular games sometimes don't get the same treatment. So we'll see if
Mhm.
that might happen this year. That might not. Yeah, I'd like to hold it at just two armies this year.
Yeah.
That would be a feat of strength for me to not paint more than two armies in a year. Uh,
Hobby goals: do less.
yeah, how we go is slow the hell down. Oh, actually, there is one thing I do want to. This will be like a week, but I have a 40K table, three Age of Sigmar tables. Um, one's decent enough for competitive. The other ones are a mix, lean more towards narrative. You've played them. You saw them. They're the ones that I had at the first Teyrathi Invitational.
Mhm.
Um, but I would like to have a fantasy army, or a fantasy army, a fantasy table. So actual some hills. Try and get an actual watchtower if I can find
Mhm.
one of the old ones. A 3D print worst case. I'd like to try and get the old stuff because like it's such a nostalgia hit for me. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'd like to do that. So two ar- 2 to 3 armies, a crusade force, and a table. That's really my only hard set. This is what I want to do this year. Yeah, Fire Slayers, maybe a Death Army, Napoleonics if I can get the models, Catachan, which I'm already working on, and a table. That would be that'd be good, and spend more time gaming,
Hmm.
and then yeah, obviously have the fun with the usual crew as often as possible. So
Yeah.
yeah, and oh, I actually don't shuts out enough, but like I actually this year my goal is to try and get my Instagram uh following bigger than my Twitter following. Like right now it's lagging behind by about 750. And I'm having more fun on Instagram as a platform as of late because there's less whiny people.
Yeah.
Uh so and it's just more fun. I don't know. I just it's fun making the content for that as opposed to just posting a picture and words. Like you can kind of be there's a little more creativity in it. So that's kind of like a loose goal. It's social media doesn't drive me. It's fun, but it's fun to connect, not necessarily like a need in my life. Like I could have 0 followers tomorrow and be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'll be just fine with that. So
Hmm.
um so yeah, if you don't follow me on Instagram, at strengthhammer underscore on Instagram, go follow me now. And like and subscribe to this podcast on YouTube. But yeah, looks I look forward to a wonderful 2023. Neil, I think we're gonna be seeing each other quite a bit as usual.
I really hope so.
And I guess everybody out there, happy New Year
Happy
and
New Year.
stay Stormcast strong. And we'll see you next week.